Okay, so as far as using the converse, first thing we could do is check to see if a triangle is a right triangle. So we're going to take the lengths 16, 48, and 50. We're going to plug them into the theorem. Remember, C is the longest. So the 50 has to be in for C, the other two, we put them in either order. 50 squared equals 16 squared plus 48 squared. So we square each part. Do your sum. So 2,500 equals 2,560, which is not true. So if it doesn't work in the theorem, it is not a right triangle. Now, that doesn't mean it's not a triangle. It still could be acute or obtuse. So here's how we check that. And this is why I would suggest you start with C squared. It makes this part easier and a little more intuitive. See, if C squared equals A squared plus B squared, then it's a right triangle, obviously. But if C squared is less than the sum of the other two, okay, that means your hypotenuse is going to actually be smaller, because the square of it is smaller. So instead of your biggest angle being a right angle, that's going to get smaller. So that means you're dealing with an acute triangle. And most people think of less than as smaller, so acute. That's why I would suggest you start with the C squared. Okay. I think the book has it the other way around. And they say, well, if A squared plus B squared is greater than C squared, then it's acute. I think it matches up better when you think of smaller things being acute, right? But you got to start with C squared. So if C squared is greater than the sum of the other two, then it would be obtuse. So if we take a triangle with sides 14, 16, and 11, and we want to determine what type of triangle that is, what would your C have to be? 14. So 14 squared, don't put your sign in though if you're just checking. Because if it's not equal, then you have to decide what is it. So 14 squared is 196. Then we have 36 plus 121. So 196 is being compared to 157. 196 is greater than 157, so that would have to be obtuse. I'm going to give you 3 problems to do. 2 of them are homework problems. Do 1 and 5. Okay, so the first one is you need to determine which type of triangle that is, showing work, and then find the missing sides for 1 and 5. Mm-hmm. Now you still have to show the work for these, you know, get off the hook just by eyeballing the numbers or entering it into your calculator and checking. You have to write the stuff down to justify your answer. However, I'll give you a clue. The closer your numbers, all 3 of them are together, not 2, but if all 3 of them are fairly close, it's probably acute. If you have one that seems to be much bigger than the others, that's probably obtuse. So we'd put 9 first. So you'd have 81, 49, and 64. Okay, you can already tell that the sum is going to be bigger, or that c squared is going to be smaller than the sum, right? That's bigger than 81, but you'd have 81 and 114, 113. 113? Yeah. Anyways, it's less. But remember, you're not, occasionally I feel like I see people that they only look at 81 compared to the first number, but you're comparing it to the sum, not the first number. So what type would that be? Acute. Okay, and on this one, which part of that needs to go by itself? What is C? X. So x squared equals 6 squared plus 8 squared. Now, if you finish that, that's fine, but just a heads up, if you notice, 6 and 8 are twice as big as 3 and 4. It's Pythagorean triple, right? So twice as big as 5, x should be 10. So the only way you'll get away with not showing work in one of these is if it's a triple. Okay, but if you did this, x squared would be 36 plus 64. So the sum would be 100, and then your square root would be 10. And then which one should go by itself here? 97. 97 squared equals 72 squared plus x squared. I didn't actually finish this one earlier. Okay, so since you're given the hypotenuse, again, that one involves subtraction. So we're going to subtract 5184. So you get 4225 equals x squared, which is a perfect square. So x would be 65. Now, since you're going to be kind of using these different methods, this stuff is pretty easy. Some of the other stuff can be, not necessarily is, but can be a little more challenging for individuals. The reason you do the ones that are easy is so you're very comfortable with them, so you know exactly how to zip through them. Because sometimes the choosing or determining which one you need to use is more the challenge than actually doing it. So, assignment is page 419, 1 to 23.